What have been some of the most important numbers for you to keep an eye on the business living, not being in your market?
For me, the KPIs are a huge learning curve. I'm not a numbers person. I can tell you this year, the biggest KPI for me, having a sales manager, is that qualified lead tab. So, hey everyone, my name is Brett Iwanowicz. So I'm I guess a semi-virtual wholesaler. I primarily operate out of upstate New York, specifically in Rochester, surrounding areas, a little bit in Buffalo. Back 2.5 years ago, I made a crazy move. Was introduced to a girl and ended up pretty much changing my business and becoming virtual, operating out of Antigua, Guatemala. And so, yeah, there's been a significant amount of growth here. I mean, I've only been wholesaling about maybe close to 5 years now. And in the first year, we really just found some success with because of groups like this. I've always been involved in masterminds, I always had coaches. My keyword and my term for this year, 2024, is growth. Growth doesn't necessarily mean money for me because we don't need to make any more money. We're focusing on systems, and part of this was for scaling. So I don't have a big company. I have a full-time executive assistant back in Rochester. I have a full-time acquisition manager, and then I'm trying to move into a leadership role. So we do anywhere from 35 to 50 deals a year. Last year we did almost 800,000. We would have done close to a million, but we had deals that are closing this year. And for us, the year prior, just solo, I did about 400 gross. So almost double the business in a year. And where we lacked was systems. And so that's something that I'd be open to sharing with you guys, my struggles, my wins, stepping in the role of a leader, because basically I used to do everything, marketing, sales, and I learned everything from just being hard-headed and just putting on the big boy pants and getting to work.
So you're full-time living in Mexico, right?
It's Antigua, Guatemala. So I live
Okay,
here.
Guatemala. Sir.
Yep. 6 to 7 months out of the year. I just
Okay.
bought another property back in Rochester, New York. So I ended up finding a really good deal through one of our wholesale channels and ended up taking it down. It was a huge project, put about 150,000 into it. And it's, one of those suburban areas. So thinking of the family in the future. And then we Airbnb that when we're not in Rochester. So we will probably spend 4 or 5 months out of the year there and, give or take, depending on what happens in the next year if we decide to have kids or when we do
Yeah.
have kids. I'm sorry.
How involved are you in your business? Like, just walk us through on a daily or weekly basis. Like, what is your role, being living in a different country and doing everything in upstate New York?
My role doesn't change when I go back to Rochester. I don't typically get involved in sales or going out to properties anymore. When I did move to Guatemala, I mean, I hired and trained everyone in house too. If I have virtual assistants, I started from scratch. I never used companies. I hired and trained, and that was kind of torture, but great torture at the same time. But I was doing all the sales, the marketing. One of our competitors decided to exit our market, and we brought in their main acquisition manager. And so the past year and a half, really I've been trying to remove myself from any administrative tasks, remove myself from working in REsimpli daily. And where I failed was the implementation of the correct processes. And the one thing that I think, I don't know if you guys think of this or have experienced this, but scaling doesn't necessarily mean it's a better business, or scaling doesn't necessarily mean that business is going to fit your lifestyle or fit your goals. And so even though I'm moving out of the business, I might have a little bit more flexibility, I'm still working all day long because I still have to create the processes. I have to implement the process. I have to track our numbers. So like, it could take another 4 years before I'm actually fully remove myself from the business. And then the question that I have for myself is, do I want to do that? What does that look like? I like to think of my business as a lifestyle business where we have the flexibility to do what you want. Now I realize I don't need to make $1 million. Like I'd be happy making $200,000 in that a year. I don't need more money. And so like defining the balance between business and life is really kind of where I'm at right now.
That's such a great point. I always talk to investors and they're so heavily focused on the top line number. And my question always is, would you rather have $1 million gross revenue business, but that's netting you only 50 to 100,000 because you don't have good systems and processes. You don't know your numbers. Or would you rather have like seven, $800,000 business, but that's very efficient and you're making like 200 to $400,000 in your business?
Working
That's
part
the kind
time.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, working part-time. Exactly. Like, I mean, honestly, I'll share my numbers. Last year, we flipped about 20 houses and we made I like the business netted about 450,000 and our gross revenue was about 650 or 700. So it's like very, very, very efficient business. That's what I get most excited about is like I don't have any like I have other businesses. So I 100% agree with you. And it's like for me, it's about running the most efficient business. I mean, yes, of course, we want to focus on the top line, but not lose the net profit, how we're getting the net profit number up. Again, I want to make sure the net profit number at the end of the day, that's what I get to keep in my business. That's a really important number. So when you decided to move, you did not have an acquisition manager in your team, correct?
Yeah, I basically had to go from doing going in the living room to doing everything over the phone. So that was the
How was that
biggest.
transition?
It was hard. But I could tell you
Was
what
it
it
was it hard mentally more than anything? Just like making the mental switch, hey, I'm not going to be able to go, look at these properties.
that I don't think that was the biggest thing for me. Over the phone negotiations are they're delicate. Because I can offend someone in the living room, but over the phone that they're gonna hang up on me. And
Got it.
so what that does, and when I say offend, I mean, I'm working on sales material right now for my acquisition manager, and it's like, I'm more the type of person who wants to push for the no, so I can get to a yes faster. So like sometimes those specific questions might get under a seller's skin. So it was a much different experience, diving into the motivation and going three. It's a lot harder to go 3 or 4 levels deep over the phone asking questions than it is in person. That was the biggest change for me, is learning how to do that. Before I left, I actually I asked a friend of mine, Josh, to come into my business and like get me dialed in on my KPIs. So that's another thing. If you guys are considering scaling masterminds, I mean, I'm in a mastermind. I've been in the mastermind for the last 5 years, or have a coach. Find a business that you want to be like, because that person can 10x your business in 6 to 10 months, 6 to 12 months easily. So I asked him to come in so I can be confident in my numbers and my marketing, and that way I can focus on the sales aspect and focus on those changes, making the move.
What have been some of the most important numbers for you to keep an eye on the business, living, not being in your market?
For me, the KPIs are a huge learning curve. I'm not a numbers person. I can tell you this year, the biggest KPI for me having a sales manager is that qualified lead tab. So
Okay.
we have a calculation called ATR, appointment take rate. That's the gross leads, the percentage of gross leads that gets converted into appointments. Then you kind of continue to go on the chain. So now for me, I'm looking at appointment. The active leads are people we can do business with out of the gross leads. And so out of those active leads, how many are qualified? And so we're really looking at I'm looking at the conversion of qualified lead to appointment, because if there's a discrepancy there, then I can go back and review those leads and figure out, okay, why do we have 10, like today we had 7 appointments and only 4 qualified leads. So there's a problem there. Why didn't get these leads get check qualified? Because if we're going on appointments that aren't qualified, we're wasting our time. And so vice versa. So basically that's my biggest metric this year. So I can hold myself accountable to being a sales leader and also holding my acquisition manager accountable. In the past, I'll be honest with you, I focused on just my conversion of gross leads to appointments, because when I was doing the sales, I was doing everything. I was doing the marketing, I'm doing the sales. I probably only had 2 to 3 hours a day to talk to sellers at most, because I was training people. I was trying to bring people on and improve everything at the same time of trying to make the company money. And it was, I was working 8 to 10 hours a day or more a day. And being behind in time makes it a little bit more difficult. Sometimes we're 2 hours, sometimes we're 1 hour. Even that 1 hour can make a big difference of feeling like you're behind on the day. So that's also played into the availability to talk to sellers.
And then last year you said you did, or last year, like 2022, you did 400,000.
Yeah, we
correct?
did
And that was you solo.
just under 400,000. That was me solo. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then last year you brought in an acquisition manager.
We did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then you
So
more than doubled your revenue.
yeah, we more than doubled the business without any changes. We probably could. What I'm looking at now was we probably could have killed that $1 million mark. I brought him in, and the way that we set that up, it was very arrangement. He was performing, getting deals done. But now that I'm coming in and auditing everything, well, I'm telling you what, I'm going from spending about $100,000 a year in marketing to about 220,000 a year. So we're doubling our spend, and then I've got an additional EA, which is a $55,000 a year salary. So that scared, excuse my language, scared the shit out of me to make sure we're not wasting money. And so that's why this year we're focusing on our sales process, because I realize we're missing out on a lot of opportunity on our process for qualifying sellers, and sometimes wasting time going on the wrong appointments. So that's probably the most important thing for me. So yeah, we did more than double the business. I think that was a blessing, a blessing from God, because it definitely probably could have went south.
So last year you spent $100,000 in marketing and made 800,000, so 8x return on marketing.
Yeah, we actually
That's
had
incredible.
one deal that we did. It was a flip. We made over 200,000 on.
Oh
So
wow.
that was a big. And I'm not a flipper. It was just an opportunity where brought in a partner on it, because I saw the potential, and he funded it and ran the. This is an experienced flipper. He does about 40 deals a year. He brought in the money, his own money, and then he ran the project, and I just brought the deal. But
Right.
that
Yeah.
was a big contributor to hitting that number.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. We do only flip. Like I don't remember the last time wholesale. We do direct to seller marketing, we flip. So we do low volume but high margin deals. So our minimum is like 40, $50,000 profit on these deals. Some will touch six figures. So what are the main marketing channels that you have in your business? I don't think we
So
talked about that.
yeah, I can share with you one of the cost per deal or cost per lead prior to like the end of this year was extremely low. I don't have that number in front of me, but a lot of our leads came from texting. And so when I look at my KPIs to 2022, we had more than double the leads than we did this year, but obviously we made a lot more money this year. But texting died for us. And I kept it going probably far too long. Probably 5 or 6 months longer than I should have. I wanted it to work, so I kept buying new data. We kept trying and failing. So our leads just kept dropping significantly. And so I decided to kill texting like maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago. So for me personally, I am the type of business that I'm in this for the long term. So like I spent a lot of money on SEO. Like we're starting another company to do SEO to try to take up 2 spots in Google. I started PPC. We do some YouTube marketing. I plan on probably doing some commercials, not ran on television, but running them on YouTube. And the biggest expense for me this year was direct mail. So our direct mail budget I haven't really dialed that number in, only because I want to make sure our processes are dialed in first before we overload the system with leads, because that's the problem with too many leads. You just want to go for the yes instead of working to get through the no's to get to a yes. And that's kind of one of the problems we're experiencing now. But we're going to be sending out minimally 2,000 cards a week. That can go up to 3,500 postcards per week. So that
Okay.
3,500 cards per week is somewhere around, I think, 120,000 would be our spend for there. PPC is about $25,000 or $30,000 a year, and I'm probably spending somewhere around $20,000 for the website in SEO. So those are our main channels: SEO, PPC, direct mail, and we do buy some of our leads as well from other channels.
Paper lead.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then where are you getting your data? Like what list are you targeting for direct mail?
So in my market, what I found is I don't do well with landlords. I don't know what it is about Rochester, but landlords can put their house on the market and always for the most part get the number that they want if they wait. And then typically, they're selling a dump for retail. And we tried targeting them. So basically our main demographic is owner occupants who have owned the home or have equity.
So
There's
like
a
5 years
list.
or longer with 30% more
Yep.
equity, like pretty straight list. Yeah.
Yep. And you guys, I don't know if you haven't heard of this list, but like people that unintentionally become landlords. So there's some lists that you can filter based on like years of ownership or equity, but as someone who owns 3 properties or less, there's
Yeah.
no you can niche that down to some individual who owns 2 properties or less. That's someone who
Right.
moved. Usually they rent their home to friends or family. Friends or family take advantage of them. Um, so that it seems like a very small demographic. And then we've had, 50 plus years of age are typically just getting rid of a property they own or getting rid of that rental that they had family in for X amount of years.
Yeah, I know Ryan Dorsey talks about that list a lot. I don't know what he calls it, but there are people that have 3 properties or less. Um,
Yep.
they're accidental landlords. Yeah, I like that list. All right. So that your budget this year is to do about 200 to 220,000 in marketing. And do
Yep.
you have like a minimum, return that you're looking, like revenue number?
Our goal is to do about 120,000 a month. That's our goal this year. So that's about
2 point,
it's about five and a
yeah,
half contracts closed a month.
five and a
Um,
half.
and that would
It's about
require,
almost 1.5 million. So like roughly doubling your number
yeah,
from last year. Yeah, so
yeah,
which makes sense because like as you kill texting, your cost per lead, cost per deal are gonna go up uh more. Yeah, that's what we're like talking to other larger companies that are using recently. Like it just seems like that's kind of the direction a lot of investors are moving in. It's like direct mail, going heavily in direct mail and inbound marketing, kind of similar to what you're doing, PPC, SEO. Uh, that's kind of where they're spending more of their money on versus like moving away from like
yeah.
texting and to some extent cold calling.
And I don't know what it is here. Like when I talk to vendors for PPC or SEO, I mean, they never oversell me on those services, but like I'm ranked like #1 on SEO and like almost every search keyword. But we might get like 5 leads a month. Like if we get 10 leads a month on SEO, that's like a huge win for us. So SEO and PPC don't produce a ton of they don't produce a lot of leads for us. So losing that texting was like that was a
Right,
huge it was either direct mail was gonna work or I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what
right.
we're doing for next year. And we're only grossing our goal per month is to gross somewhere around so I have about 130 leads a month, which is about let's just say 1,600 leads per year.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, that sounds like based on the budget that you have, that sounds pretty reasonable. It's going to be interesting as like, real estate investor market as a whole kind of shifts away from uh texting and then goes more into direct mail. It'll be or other inbound marketing channels. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes.
I'm excited because especially with the 10DLC registration, and it seems like it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to get started, which is
You know,
not
that
a good thing or
it's
bad thing.
when you think about it, like it's such a good thing for serious investors. Like
Yeah,
imagine what used to happen previously was you could just like a new investor could watch a YouTube video of someone talking about how easy it is to wholesale. They would just go to PropStream, get a list, skip trace, start texting, like all within 30 minutes to an hour of just watching the video. You can't do that anymore. Like you
no,
got to go through the whole A to B 10 DLC registration. You have to have a legit business. You have to have a website, EIN, which creates friction, which creates barrier for like newer investors who are not serious. But it creates such a huge advantage for investors that are serious about their business because they've invested money into having a company set up, having a website, and doing it the right way. So I think it's going to be great for more experienced, seasoned investor or people that are serious about the business. I think it's going to be great for them, people that are investing in their business rather than just trying to get a quick deal out of it.
and one thing that and for you guys listening, I think this is a great opportunity to like it's hard for me because I can't get involved in my local REIA because I'm out of the country half the year. And I actually used to have a podcast, and I mean, I couldn't operate the podcast with the changes in our business. But if you have channels, a one marketing channel should be JVs. So, like, if you have all these people flooding your market looking to get started, how can you take advantage of them? Well, not take advantage of them, but take advantage of it's an opportunity to help them get started the right way. And ultimately, that could be a source for you to generate leads because it does cost a lot of money to get started in this business. and what this reminds me of, I watched this video on Instagram the other day, and this guy said, forget about being an entrepreneur, get into sales. I think I think if I had to do this all over again, if I had to start from scratch, I probably wouldn't went to college. I would have gotten into sales. And the reason I'm sharing that with you, because that's a message that I would share to the people who wanted JV deals with me. Forget about starting your own business. Do you want to know how much this business costs to operate and how much stress comes to play? Like my AM, I'm only, if we hit our goal this year, I'm making about $120,000 more than my AM. That's not a lot of, it's a lot of money, but it's not. So he's almost making just as much money as me. And I set my business up that way because I want him to be successful and I want him to make a lot of money. Um, but you could be coaching people into acquisition roles or lead generation roles, and they could make really good money doing that for you. And you can just build up partnerships that way.
Absolutely. What's been the biggest challenge for you running a virtual business?
Ah, patience.
Patience? In
Um,
what sense?
First, I hated going into the living room because it was hard. It was one of the most difficult things I ever had to do. I think it might sound crazy, but like, I had friends who challenged me to just go to every appointment and make offers on every property, and that's what I did. But being patient in terms of waiting for processes to work, because things don't happen overnight. You have to like be stepping into a leadership role. You have to allow people to make mistakes, and you can't get mad that they do, because if they made a mistake, that's on you. So every time some mistake happens, there's always something you could have done to prevent that mistake from happening. So being patient in my mindset, being patient in moving in roles, being patient hiring people, being patient with sellers on the phone, because patience, you have to, when you're listening, you have to be patient. You have to be patient before you're quick to respond with a statement rather than a question. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, because I'm always on the go. I'm always doing something. I can't sit still. So just like trusting a process, or trusting someone else's process, because that's even better if you have a proven process, and implementing that. That's what I did in our sales department. I just took the John Martinez training. Just letting it do its thing, just trusting it to work, and just knowing that patiently, if you wait, it'll.
And what's been the biggest blessing about running a virtual business?
I think it's like it was 20 degrees yesterday in Rochester, and it's been 80 and sunny, and it's beautiful here. There's pros and cons. I've always, it's funny. I came to Guatemala on a mastermind, and I told a friend of mine, like, I would love to live here, and I never even thought that would be possible. So I think being virtually just opens up the door to having more flexibility to travel or just to do things you love in general.
Yeah.
We
No,
went to the
agree.
beach after Christmas here, and we work remotely from the beach.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. It was for me when I moved, I invested in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago, and live in San Diego area. For me, like, I mean, of course, living in, warm weather all year round is great. But for me, like one of the biggest blessing was I was forced to have processes in my business. It was incredible once I moved. Like I used to live like 30, 40 minutes from where I was flipping houses to move like 4 hour flight to where I'm flipping now. I was forced to have systems and process. I didn't realize how much inefficiency I had in my business until I moved away, and some of the things I could not physically do. And like, holy crap, I can't believe I was doing all these things when I didn't really have to. Just because I was living close to a property didn't mean I had to go look at it.
Yeah.
It was such an eye-opening for me. Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions for Brett, either put it in the chat or unmute yourself about running a virtual business. I mean, he's living in a different country, he's not like living an hour or two away. He's living in a different country. So that's it. Do you have any plans to expand into other markets, kind of the process that you have, or you're pretty content with what you're doing in Rochester?
I mean, I'm pretty content with what we're doing. I'm not a operational manager. That's where I fall short in our processes. I'm more of the imaginary, visionary person. So this business can be very difficult in a sense for me. It takes a long time to see problems, come up with a plan, and implement changes. And so, even if I had a plan that I could take and bring to another market, that whole process is kind of just makes my head go boom. And so if I did that, I'd have to probably bring on an operations person to implement what I have. And I have absolutely no interest in
Mhm.
doing that.
And you said you hired someone, your acquisition manager from another company. What was that process like? And especially being virtual, what are some good tips on making sure you hire the right person?
Well, they were local, so he was in the living room already. So the owners were out of state, and they decided to move into our market and brought him on. I think as far as hiring goes in general, I'm still learning that process. I think the best advice I could give is spend the upfront time to make sure you have the right person, which, you know, I like to look at how does their personal life fit my business. So like what goals do they have in their life where we can benefit mutually by me helping them get to those goals. And I think that's a great way to find a fit for the right person, making sure they have the right personality. So doing disc assessment tests and things like that, and ultimately getting more than a handful of referrals and actually following up with those referrals and not just looking at them. But there's a whole process, like what kind of questions you're going to ask, how many times are you going to interview the person, how many people are you going to interview, where are you going to try to find that position. All that is still a learning curve for me. So every time, um, it's not with sales, but looking for different VAs and hiring and starting from scratch, just learning a little bit and then implementing a little bit. And my process is far from perfect. And my last hire was my assistant, and that went a lot smoother than the years prior trying to hire virtual assistants.
What are some of the goals that you look for? You mentioned that you look for, maybe some goals that they have, the common goals, so it can be aligned. What are some of them that you look for? Is it like financial or something else?
It could be financial. It could be, yeah, I want to travel to Denver for 3 months. Okay, well, can this business help you do that? Or like it can, and that might sound crazy, but the idea is if you can align with someone and their goals, their life goals, they could be life, it could be business, it could be life, it could be a combination of the two, then ultimately they're gonna put their best forward for you, working for you because you're interested in help seeing them succeed, not only financially but personally. And I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. I was an HR major. I don't know if I remember anything from HR, but I love the guy Kerwin Ray, and he talks about culture a lot. So basically, you need to create a culture for growth, personally, financially, and open up the door for continued education, personally and financially, being involved in their lives, because that requires a lot of coaching sometimes on the mindset, which can stem from personal problems. So the mindset's the biggest one, and having those goals and having that vision aligned can help you bring that mindset back on.
And are you having them do some sort of coaching or training, like, to build culture in your company? That's something that I struggle with. I'm curious, I guess, if there's something that you do proactively to keep building culture in your company.
Well, right now, our schedule is pretty full Monday through Friday, but I do have in our contracts that we will pay for continued education. For our acquisitions, like if they want to do continued training, we can bring them into the John Martinez training, REI Sales Academy. But the idea is for me to step into the role of the leader. I used to also coach. I love coaching. And so being in that leadership role allows me to have a coaching or leadership role where I would, our system for auditing calls or auditing our workflow or auditing tasks allows me to coach through those processes. So that there isn't necessarily further education, but it is, and we have. I mean, we want to grow in terms of being more efficient. So I have to take what I'm learning. So I'm constantly learning myself, and then the implementation of what I learned, I share with my team, and then we implement, and that's how we're able to grow and build on those processes.
And do you have any VAs in your team or not anymore?
Not anymore. I had two and a half VAs. I had a part-time VA that helped with admin, and then I had two full-time VAs, one acting as a lead manager. She also did some admin stuff. Then I had someone else who managed our launch control account. But it made the most sense for me being away because I'm also trying to build a rental portfolio again. I sold all my rentals before I moved. But I needed boots on the ground in Rochester. And so I basically got rid of the two VAs, brought on the full-time executive assistant, and not doing texting anymore. That relieved a big role. And so my EA, she's also our a lead manager in REsimpli, and then she helps with the rentals and basically helps keep the business going.
And then when you did have the VAs, what was the best, if we're looking to hire a new VA for my real estate investing business, what's the best advice you would give someone who's looking to hire a VA Philippines?
I don't know if this is good advice, but learn how to fire fast.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that's the biggest problem I had, and here's why. I could always find a problem with my VA stemmed from a problem from me, and it stems from bad processes or bad communication or bad coaching. So like at what point do you draw the line where this is, from you recognizing your own mistakes or this person just not performing? It was really, that was a very difficult line for me to draw, to be honest with you. I think I still struggle with that a little bit.
There's a question from Evgenia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Where do you find your employees? How do you find boots on the ground who actually go and see houses?
So I used Indeed once. I decided it wasn't even the right time to hire an acquisition manager, but I posted a job role to see what was going to happen. Probably because I was banging my head up against the wall working too much. And I used Indeed. I probably spent like $1,000 on applications on Indeed, and I got nothing. So when I hired my EA, I just used LinkedIn. I just started posting that job on LinkedIn, and it was free. I didn't even pay for their paid subscription, and I probably had between 15 and 18 people interested in that job, and I did 3 interviews and then hired one person out of those 3. So LinkedIn was huge, and I'm not even active on LinkedIn, but I was very surprised at the amount of people who responded to that job post.
Yeah, we've used Indeed. I think the two people that we hired and simply we found them both through Indeed. Yeah, it can be hit or miss with Indeed, but I've heard LinkedIn is a really good source. I
I
was
was gonna
gonna
say,
say if you're looking for on Philippines, we've had really good success with
uh,
onlinejobs.ph. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Okay.
So yeah, Fiverr and Upwork, it was very difficult to. I felt like I spun my wheels a lot trying to find the right person. But yeah, Online Jobs PH did a better job of bringing me people that I would be more likely to interview. So yeah, I just definitely subscribe and you can use
Yeah,
them
and
there.
one thing we do, especially if it's an admin role, is to make sure they actually read the ad. And it's especially if it's an admin role, we want the person to be detail oriented. The last line of the job posting will put something like, hey, if you're interested, reply back and put this in a subject line. Like, for example, I'm awesome. If they don't do that, we immediately disqualify them
Uh,
because if they didn't even read the entire job post and didn't reply back with that, then we just disqualify them right away.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, I try to make it so difficult that no one replies to me. Maybe that's my problem because I've wasted so much time trying to hire people. We'll do the same thing, but I make them so I get very specific. They have to write like almost like a certain amount of words, one paragraph, and then they send it out in an email, and then they have to there's 3 steps that they have to take to get interviewed, and then one of them is the email. I can't remember what the second one was, and the last one was filling out the disc assessment and then sending
Right.
that in.
Yeah. And in on when we hire in Philippines, we also ask for a video. Yeah, that they must
Yep.
send a video. If they don't, with the right subject line, we disqualify them. Yeah. And second part of the question, how do you find boots on the ground who actually go and see houses?
So I just used Facebook,
Oh, that's a good
and
one.
so the biggest actually a really good question because when I went virtual, so I used to flip houses. So I don't know how people do this, but I can't confidently put my best foot forward unless I see a home. So that was the biggest one for me. Maybe there's a better process that some of you guys have that might have worked, but I needed to find boots on the ground. And so I ended up just posting on Facebook, and then I had found a retired flipper, and he's still young, and he had a rental portfolio, and he just likes to work. So I paid him between $75 and $100 per appointment, and he would go out and take photos for me, and then I would review those photos and present my offer to the seller using those photos. And also, he had a construction background, so he was
Oh,
was
that's
able to
good.
give me a good
Yeah.
overview of the property condition to be able to make it a solid offer.
Yeah. We've had luck finding people on Craigslist is one. And second is um, like a new real estate agent. They're already in the
Mm.
game. They're keen to go out and take pictures and stuff. And then we'll pay them by per house, like depending on. I mean, we're in a very small area, so they're not
Yep.
driving much. We'll pay them for gas also, plus per appointment.
I think the biggest mistake that I used to make is like, I'm I'm not a detailed person, I am. I try to be somewhat structured. Like I would post, but it'd be way too much information in a post. So like keep it vague,
That would
keep it
scare
as
people away.
vague. Yeah, you want to, it's like a sales pitch. You want to sell people. So it's got to be vague, it's got to be intriguing, there has to be a hook, there has to be a call to action, but it can't be a page long either.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, we had good luck finding someone on Craigslist, but it was very simple. Hey, we need someone to go out, we're local house flipping company. We need someone to go out, take pictures of the houses we're flipping, just go check on the progress of these houses. Just for us, I live in San Diego. My project manager lives an hour north of me, and then my lead manager lives in Canada. So, we have a very virtual business, but we have someone like boots on the ground that we found, and that person goes out, just take pictures of the houses, and then we have specific things that we want them to look, make a video of the house, like front of the house, 360 degree, do all that stuff, and then it's just like it's a very simple process. Now we give them a link of like for each property from REsimpli, shareable link. They just go and upload their pictures there, and then they're done. They don't have to talk to contractors. They don't have to like mention anything to them. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? All they're doing is just independently going out and taking pictures, and it's been huge. And I think when we have projects going on, maybe we pay like 100 $250 a week, just for someone to go out. So very reasonable, and that person is happy. They can do it at their own schedule. It's not a fixed time. That it just like the only thing we ask is there's daylight outside. That's the only thing we ask for.
Is really easy money. I mean, and if depending on what market it is, like I mean, there was a point where real estate agents needed to make a little extra money. I mean, for
Yeah,
working less than part-time hours to make it between 1,000 and 1,500 bucks a month, like
exactly.
I would have done it,
Yeah.
in my 20s.
Yeah, and especially when you get to do it on your own schedule, they could be
Yep.
running some errands and like, oh, I'll just stop by this house and take some pictures and videos. That's kind of what we offer. The only thing we ask is there's daylight outside to get good lighting of the picture for the pictures. That's pretty much it. Yeah, but yeah, Craigslist for us, and then real estate agents is what's what for. I mean, I'm so out of my business. Like Claudia, my project manager, she's been with me for 7 years. I found her through Craigslist, so she manages everything. And I know the first person we found boots on the ground, she found through Craigslist also. Yeah.
Yeah, I might actually try that because we're looking for. So I've never used Craigslist, but we just got so busy. We had a process to. We're actually going to start doing banner signs again because people stopped doing banner signs. I've actually got a whole bunch back in Rochester, but that's the next role. The problem with we're not even. I don't even know if we could call what we're doing scaling. We're scaling our processes. The problem with that is you can stack on too much at one time and then nothing gets done well or nothing is learned well. So like
Right.
we just had a new process that we wanted to implement for auctions, and I had to kill it because it was killing the processes that we're already working on. So that was another one we had to kill, but it's on the board to get back here at some point.
And then do you have any tips on, Bill has a question, how are you hiring your contractors virtually?
Since we're not doing a lot of flips, my suggestion, partnerships can be good, but they could also take take you down pretty quickly if you have the wrong partnership. So me being virtually, I can share. I had helped a friend quit his job, and he was a GC. My best friend quit a job. He's GC for a large construction company, and we found that with life and business, we started going in different directions. That friendship became very stressful. So partnerships can be great opportunities to work directly with contractors, but you want to make sure their level of experience is the same as yours. So if I'm 5 or 6 years into wholesaling, like I'm making consistent income, I know my KPIs, I know my marketing, I know what I want to do, what my goals in life, like that contractor needs to meet me the same place or exceed that. And so those are going to be the best partnerships. And if you don't find that person with what I just described, it could be very difficult to continue that relationship or potentially cause problems in your business. So for me, it was partnership. The guy I did the flip on. We wholesaled him more than a handful of homes. I know him locally. He's been flipping longer than I've been flipping for maybe 15 years. He does 30 to 40 a year. He's never not closed on a deal. He always does what he says he's going to do. And when I needed to flip that property, I called him and he did it. But he's way up here. I'm down here. So that worked
Right.
well for my. I don't know if I answered your question, but for me, I just had to rely on partnerships. And prior to that, being local in Rochester, I flipped properties, and so I have an idea of what's required to do that and somewhat of the scope and pricing and things change like that. So I did have some experience, which helped, help with if there's anything work related with scope of work and things like that.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I think for us, the best one is through referrals if we can get from a referral from someone that we trust. But otherwise, like, I when I used to live in the area, when I used to live in Chicago, I would go, we used to buy, pretty much everything at Home Depot. So I'd go to the Home Depot contractor desk and ask them, hey, who are the contractors you would recommend? And they would be guys that are showing up early to the jobs, and then you want to ask people at Home Depot and ask within your network. I mean, other luck we've had is calling the local building department and
Mm.
asking them, hey, who is the guy that's pulling a lot of permits? Who's doing a lot of jobs for other flippers in the area? They would give you some referral. And then if you're in the area, just driving around and seeing, the construction company or the crew that's working and just showing up and say, hey, are you looking for more jobs? Is how we've had luck. So yeah, Claudia in our company manager, she goes out once every 4 to 6 months to just like build relationship with contractors. But yeah, I mean that's how kind of how we found out contractors.
Like my one of my friends, Josh, he's actually the one who helped me move to Guatemala. He just bought his first rental, and he said he spent a lot of time up front, and he basically interviewed 3 people for every job. So if it was flooring, drywall, and that would be my suggestion for anyone doing a renovation,
Absolutely.
because if you're not doing that and finding the right people, like I said, my friend just started flipping, and that was one of the places where he struggled was his process of dealing with contractors walking and then trying to find people to finish the job. And so yeah, does require or can require a lot of time up front to even do that, which is sometimes a very difficult commitment. But I definitely suggest not skipping that part and going with the first recommendation.
Oh yeah, that could really
Yeah.
screw up. Like I've
Yeah.
had horrible stories working with contractors. It's you never find a perfect one, but you just keep improving your process with
Yeah.
every single flip that you do. Evgenia has a question. Which app do you use to upload pictures and videos that you guys do? So yeah, we just upload everything in recently, but for our contractors, just to make it easy, they message pictures to Claudia through WhatsApp, and then Claudia is uploading everything from WhatsApp into REsimpli for that specific project folder. So everything ends up at the end of the day in REsimpli. So we want to make sure everything is there. We don't use any Dropbox, Google Drive, or anything. So everything ends up there, and that's where kind of we manage everything from.
That's exactly what we do. And
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could get the WhatsApp desktop app. I just learned that like 3 months ago. And I'm like,
Oh, really?
why didn't I have this on my computer? I'm like, what the hell? I was like,
Yeah.
that was a game changer for me. But yeah, we used to do everything in Google, and now we're doing everything the same way. So we manage our team through WhatsApp because I'm virtual, but WhatsApp is a lot easier to text, send photos than any
Right.
SMS. And so it's easier to download them, share documents, and then everything goes either
Yep.
have the link Simply, and then everything just makes its way into REsimpli.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we do. So I want to be able to go in and do any property, like even after we've sold or at any stage, and see everything like before pictures, progress pictures, and after pictures. Everything should be there. Makes it super, super clean and organized process. Cool, man. We're almost getting at the top of the hour. Brett, any other tips that you have for someone who's getting started, especially related to marketing, given the different landscape that we're living in from like 6 months to a year ago with texting? What would what advice would you give someone who's getting started and now that texting isn't as easy?
Yeah, sometimes I sit down and think about like had texting not been available to me when I got started, would I be here? I'm not sure if I would be, but the reason I bring that up is because people give up too soon when it comes to marketing. So you have to find a marketing channel that you can afford. Not only can you afford for 8 to 12 months, but that you can get really good at. So people try to do too many things at one time, direct mail, texting. If you're just trickling in a little bit here and a little bit there, that's not going to work. So, and if you're going to give a marketing channel the time, like it took me about a year and 3 or 4 months to start consistently generating leads. Like consistently. Like I know how many appointments I'm going to go on that month, know how many offers I'm going to make. That's a long freaking time to wait for one marketing channel to work. And I was
Right.
texting. So that would be my advice. If you're looking into marketing, you got to look at how much you're willing to spend for the year. And if that marketing channel isn't working, it's probably because you just suck at something else. I'm like that could you might marketing is one thing, but what is your sales process? So you really have to go hard on this is what my spend is. I'm not going to spend more than that. And if there's a problem, it's probably not the marketing channel. It's probably a sales problem. And dive deeper instead of I know my business used to be a charity where if something didn't work, I just throw money at it. But then when I really started making money was just, being serious of like, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna figure it out until it does work. And then when I know it works, then I can create those systems and I can be confident in them. Then I can start adding and moving on to another marketing channel.
No, man, absolutely. Anytime anybody asks me or anybody at our company what's the marketing channel they should start with, we always say the one that you can stick with the longest. They
Hmm.
all work, but you have to stick with it long enough. If you're going to do direct mail 1 month, cold calling next month, and then PPC third month, nothing is going to work. You may get lucky here and there, but if you give any marketing channel at least 6 to 8 months, you will see results, assuming given that you have systems and processes on the back end,
Well, my
like,
response has been go get a sales job.
yeah, I agree.
Don't even start
Uh,
wholesaling.
yeah, sales
That's
job, definitely
Yep.
in
Go
wholesaling
work for
business.
someone. Go work for someone and learn their processes. That way you're not wasting your marketing because like you're gonna waste it until you figure it out. Why not go work with someone, get a
That's a
process
great
that
idea.
works,
Yeah.
and then start spending the money. But the problem I find is no one has patience. Like they want to try to figure it out everything on their own. And like that's why most people fail is because they're not willing to humble themselves to go work for someone and learn and then come back with what they've learned and then have a real business plan and you really be at 10 steps ahead with that plan. Now you know what's going to happen with that marketing and you can be confident in your process. So that's one thing. You're working on being confident in your marketing and learning to be confident in your sales process, and that is a difficult place to be at the same time.
Couple of questions. I'll let you take. Do you use Slack in your business? If yes, share your experience and how this app makes easier processes.
I don't use Slack. I can tell you. I mean, I'm going to look it up here real quick. So for my team, we use Hubstaff. So Hubstaff tracks hours, and then I can generate reports. So I'm able to follow my EA's basically her work week, and then we also manage all of our tasks in there. So there's a task management section. It's very basic, but it works. Also, what I've realized recently is Google actually just came out with a something in the calendar where that's called Time Insights, which also helps manage our tasks and manage our team and manages our time. So basically breaks your time, and you can break that time into different categories and look at your meetings per week, time spent per week, time spent in meetings with different people. So that's something that I'll be keeping an eye on in the future. And then, so Hubstaff is one, and I just started using a software called Fellow. So this was
Never
really
heard
cool.
of that.
So I'm not an operations person, and I'm not the best at communicating things. Like it's very difficult for me to take what's in here, put it on paper, and give it to someone else to do. So Fellow is linked to my Google Calendar, and basically there's outlines of scheduled team meetings, one-on-one meetings, quarterly meetings. They basically give you a blueprint from start to finish for meetings, 90-minute meeting, daily huddle meetings, and then basically you can adjust those templates and have a blueprint for any type of meeting you could think for accounting, finance, marketing. So basically what I did with my team is I have found the right templates for our business. And now it's up to my team members to come in prior to our team meeting and fill in those templates and then present their findings to me in a manner that's if there's order, there's so basically I'm the type of person where I'm like squirrel mode, so I'm thinking of 100 things at the same time. That's a big problem that I have with team meetings. So basically, it allows a structured meeting. It holds my team accountable for presenting what's going on that week, and then it transcribes everything. I think it even records a video, but it transcribes everything. They can send it out in a PDF, and other different methods to basically have those notes to actually then go ahead and implement.
Cool, man. I'd never heard of. Yeah, we don't use Slack either in our real estate business. Like WhatsApp that our contractors use to send pictures to Claudia, and then everything gets put into REsimpli. And then I shared a link when someone had a question, how do you manage contractors remotely? I did a call on this, I think few months ago on how we're managing our fix and flip being remote, the systems and processes that we have. So it's an hour-long call. I went deep into kind of what we're doing in our business. We have a different bank account set up. We have a main operations account for the company, but for our contractors, I've set up a separate bank account for Claudia, and then she pays from there, and I move money into that once a week, just so that she can pay. And then all the pictures and everything, financials get uploaded in recently, and then that's how we manage just financials on there.
Yeah, and I can tack onto that. I depending on the amount of flips you're doing, if you I know like Sharad's probably really amazing at the small details, but like I think where a lot of flippers fail, and I don't know if you're a flipper in particular or how many properties you renovate a year, but cash flow is always a problem with flippers. Always. I'm in a bunch of different masterminds or have been, and it seems to be a big problem for flippers, and that stems from cash management or lack of cash flow reports. So like if you got to hire a bookkeeper from another country for $65 a month, do it.
Oh,
So you don't have to spend the time managing that. You can spend your time running the business, because that can tend to be the biggest problem, is like trying to go through your report, trying to go through your finances, making sure you have the money to pay contractors. Hire someone else to do that for you, because then you can focus on managing the contractors and not managing the money.
yeah. It's one of the most boring, but the most important part of the business. We manage books for some REsimpli users. We manage their books within REsimpli. And once after like a month or two, after we manage, it's the insight that they get in their business from marketing KPIs to knowing how much money they have, where they can spend their money, how much they can spend. It's a totally different way of looking at your business. Like
Yep.
you feel so much more confident about making decisions once you know your financial, once you know the decision that you're making is based on financial, not just based on your gut feeling. So
Yep.
cool. All right, Brett. Thank you so much, man, for being on the call. Congratulations on your wedding next
Thank
month.
you.
Please share pictures. Yeah, that's
I will. I
exciting.
will.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on the call. And I'll see you guys on the next week call. Have a great rest of the week. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.